So, Miles, we've known each other for, how long have we known each other now?
At least 25 minutes now.
Yes, a little bit longer. But we've known each other for a short while, really. I think it's probably about a year, isn't it? No, it's just over a year. It's over a year. Who says that? We've had some very interesting conversations, and it gives me great pleasure to be able to have this chat with you tonight and let everyone else see more about who you are. So, tell us a little bit about you then. You show great things about being a great entrepreneur. So, where did this all start?
Me being an entrepreneur started in my head. I wanted to be an entrepreneur maybe for a long time, actually, but I thought you needed to have an education and training for it. And so I decided I was going to become an accountant so I could learn about the finance, because obviously all businesses have to manage finance and all entrepreneurs go to accountants for advice. So I thought, well, if you go to accountants for advice, they must have all the answers. And so I decided to train as an accountant. And I was one for about 20 years. And then after that, I decided to take sabbatical. It's really funny, actually, because I had a family and I kind of got distracted. So in feeding my family and maintaining that responsibility, I forgot all about being an entrepreneur. And then as my kids grew up, I realized, hang on a second, I'm in a job that I really only did to learn a specific skill set. And there's no point in me staying in it anymore. And so I went and done an MBA at what they call Heriot Watts School of Business, based in Scotland. So I went to do that. And what was interesting is that within the first 3 months, I was a bit disappointed because I'm thinking, I'm not learning anything here. I'm not learning anything because in qualifying to be an accountant, I had to go through, lots of business studies and financial studies, et cetera, et cetera. And everything on the MBA, with one exception, marketing, everything I'd studied already. And so I thought, I'm not learning anything here. And I didn't really do the MBA to get an MBA. I did an MBA to get skills and understanding of how to run a business. Anyway, cut a long story short, this was in September of I started September of 1996, I believe. So by December of 96, I came across a man called Tony Robbins, who came to England, and he'd done something in the NEC, around the corner from you guys in Birmingham. And it was called the Unleash the Power Within. So I went on his program. I heard about him before. So I went to his program, and it was like a 3-day weekend course, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and done that. And while I was there, I was convinced I was going to learn more from this man than I would in my MBA. So I decided I was going to go to America. And so by the following February 1997, I was in America and I started his program called the Master University Program. And I basically just literally abandoned the MBA because I realized it wasn't giving what I wanted. I went to America. Now, while I was in America, I met a lot of people there, made some really good friends, as you do when you're kind of in a very concentrated sort of environment. And I stayed with a new friend in Seattle, and now based in Seattle, Washington, in the northwest of the country. And while I was there, I came across a man called Wade Cook, who was basically teaching options trading. And I did his course. It was about $11,000 for about 4 days training. And so I went and did his course. And on his course, he completely opened my mind about investing, about trading, and what was possible. And so very, very quickly, Halifax, my bank then and now, paid 5%, at the time, paid 5% interest per annum. And he showed me how to make 10% in one day. And I thought, hang on a second, if I can make 10% return in one day, why on earth would I give my money to Halifax, to make 5% for the whole year? And so I was ruined from that perspective. I could never go back to, trusting the banks with my money. And so that's when my education and it took off really. And so that was 1997. And then about the year 2000, I retired from work, and that was it. I was done. I didn't have to work anymore.
Wow. And did you actually aim for 2000? Did you actually aim for it?
No, I didn't actually. I didn't aim for it. It was just that, yeah, I was at work one day and I'm thinking, why am I here? Because I'm wasting time. I'm making more money in the stock market than I was at work. Why am I here? And so I walked away. And I think what happened, there must have been something at work that made me think this is not really worth it anymore. I had a couple of colleagues who, you know, at the time I was in a place called Chase Farm, which is near Enfield, if anyone knows the Enfield area of London. And when I was there, we had a director of finance who was a very, very aggressive, one of those aggressive guys who likes to intimidate. So he likes to gain control by intimidating. And I had options. He couldn't intimidate me. I had options. I didn't have to be there. And so, but it wasn't him personally, because me and him had a bit of a clash and he kind of left me alone after a while. But one of the directors, for some reason, kind of just got under my skin. And I said, you know what, I don't need to be here anymore. And so that was it. I left. And I decided I'd never, ever, ever be an accountant again for anybody ever again. That was my promise to myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And you've done so well, at such a young age. There are many.
Well, I wasn't that young. I mean, I was in my 30s by then.
That's still very good. I mean, there's a lot of people that allow different things in their own lives to stop them, as well as fear and the ego. But for such a young age,
I'll tell you straight up, I was afraid, because there was a time in my very last position when my brain said to me, "Come on, you got to get out of here. It's time to go." And I'm thinking, that doesn't make sense. Why would I just go like that? Do you know what I mean? But once I kind of did the maths and I realized I didn't have to stay, I was good.
That is really amazing. And along that journey, have you had any times when you've had any regrets or thought about you could have done things differently?
Yeah, the only regret is I took so long to make the move. That was the regret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and though you were fearful a little bit.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
What were you fearful of?
Okay, remember I had a family. So I wanted to make sure that I had regular income to pay for my bills and pay for the experience. My kids are growing up now, so they were like at the age now where they needed to get university fee education money. They needed to. One of my kids, a professional footballer at the time, he needed to go across to Europe for training, and so all of that needed funding. And I had to just make sure that I had regular income. Now, here's the problem. If you have a bag of money and you're not investing it properly, the money will disappear. So it can't last forever. Even if you have £1 million and just spend it, it will just disappear over time.
Yes. Yeah. That's always a massive problem for many people. I mean, if you were encouraging other people to follow the step of freedom, if you like, what would you suggest to them?
Okay, I think freedom is very, very simple. And I wish I knew the formula for freedom then as I do now. Because I've made lots of mistakes and messed up. And I had to start again, actually, in some cases, in a few situations. But here's the formula for freedom. Number one, get yourself a job that makes you money. And then you take a portion of that money and you start to use that as an investment. So let's say, for example, it doesn't really matter what your earnings are. You need to live on about no more than 80% of what you make. 80% is your lifestyle. That's it. So you cut your lifestyle back. Now, that's tough for women who want to do their nails and do their hair and look good all the time. But the truth is, it's a discipline. You maintain it and you just do it. That's the first thing. You should also have multiple streams of income. So you have to have more than one place of earning your money. And if you're smart, you would have sources of earning money which doesn't take up all of your time. Simplest one is a property. You have a house that basically, you collect rental income from. Well, collecting rent every month doesn't take time. Do you know what I mean? And you could literally have, depending on how many properties you own, you could literally have more money from properties than you do from your job. Very, very easy. Another one these days, as I would say, get yourself very, very familiar with eBay and start selling things on eBay. And then go to the website, the Milestone Investing YouTube channel, and you'll see a little video on there on compounding. And you'll see how the power of compounding over time can actually grow you a nice capital base from which to basically set yourself free. And you can start with very, very little. And use the video there and just listen, watch it. Something I did in the classroom setting, and that will explain how compounding works, and then use that as a track. But compounding doesn't just work for property or stock market, it works for everything. You could be literally having a hairdressing business and compound money. You could be buying trainers or t-shirts and compounding. It doesn't really matter what you do. Just as long as you understand the process.
Yes, yes. And currently you have programs that help people with compounding and things like that. Are you going to be intent on doing some more?
Yes, I intend to do one at the end of this month.
Okay.
And so what I focus on with this one, I told you I learned from a guy called Wade Cook, right? And in the classroom, he taught about maybe 20 to 30 different strategies, right?
Yes.
But here's my question to you, Angela. If you want to become a millionaire, how many different ways do you need to do it, if all of them work?
Oh, goodness. I have no idea.
Well, you only need one.
Mm.
If you have one way of becoming a millionaire, get on with it. Just do one. But usually the one that most people use of getting money is their job. And most people's jobs can't do it.
No.
So therefore, because your job can't set you free, then stay in your job to keep your bills paid and the roof over your head and food in your children's mouths. Keep that job, but on the side, do things that can actually set you free.
Yes. And it sounds so much more easier than done, but I hear exactly where you're coming from. I mean, same thing with people go out and they buy cars and things. Those that don't depreciate, those that do make you some money, these antique ones that make you some money. And it's so much more easier, as I said, but it's very interesting in when you actually do take that step to doing something and making yourself some money, and you can see again how easy it can be. You know, we're talking about property. With all the legal things that are now going through, that makes things a little bit difficult with property. Do you agree or not?
What do you mean legal things?
You know, the legislation things that a landlord have to do with their homes and things to rent. That has increased and it's still increasing.
Okay. Yes, it is more expensive and trickier, but the legislation only works to hurt small people, not big people. And so if you have more than, say, 5 to 10 houses, it's as lucrative as it ever was.
Right.
If you've only got one or two rental properties, then they're kind of trying to get you out of the game, to be honest.
Yes. Yes.
So they just want you to be professional. So professionals are going to have their property portfolio in a limited company, and they'll run it as a business.
Okay. It sounds like you've been on a fantastic journey with regards to being. I do look at you as an entrepreneur, and I know many people listening do. What would you say are any challenges that people need to be mindful of?
I would say a couple of things. You need to have the correct mindset. You can't be the kind of person who's easily defeated by disappointment. There was a wise man I met many moons ago when I was in my 20s, and he said that you should discipline your disappointments. So just because something is disappointing and it lets you down or whatever, just move on. You know, you need to have a resilience in your character. So you've got to become relatively, just be a strong person, to be blunt. You need to have faith in something higher than yourself, so that when you're kind of overwhelmed, you can just tap into that faith and just bounce back very, very quickly. I mean, I remember many moons ago, I would just, get involved in things which didn't work out well. And I would spend way too long being miserable. Whereas what I should have done, and that's what I do now, by the way, I give myself a limit. If I'm vexed about something, or if I'm upset about something, I give myself a time limit, and it's over. And so I'll say something like, okay, you're vexed now. I'll give you 10 minutes. I'm talking to myself. You can have 10 minutes being vexed, and that's it. It's over in 10 minutes. Move on. And then I basically put myself into a good mental headspace again. And so whatever issues are, if I have to deal with it, deal with it. And 10 minutes later, I behave as though nothing happened.
That's really wonderful.
Another thing, what would I say? So you need to have, again, like the correct mindset. You need to be a relatively optimistic individual. You need to have energy. And this is the key thing. Now, I'm in my 50s, right? And when I got to my late 40s, I found myself feeling really fatigued and getting tired. And I knew there's no way that I can actually do a lot of work and be tired. You can't be tired and be hardworking at the same time. Those two things don't go together. And so you have to look after your health. End of story. You have to look after your health. And that means eating the correct foods, which are healthy. So pizzas and chips in the bin. Don't worry, don't eat that again. Eat foods that give you, that put life into your body. And anything that doesn't do that, don't eat it. Even if it's culturally what you do, if it's something part of your culture and it's bad for you, leave it alone. So you want to focus on your health, make sure you're healthy. Exercise is another one, and you must sleep. I mean, back in the day when I was an accountant, I heard that Maggie Thatcher had 4 hours sleep. And I thought, well, she can live on 4 hours sleep, so can I. I did that for a couple of years. It was madness. I wish I had sense back then to realize you can't do that and stay healthy. You need to sleep, because there's 2 reasons why you need to sleep. One, the physical body needs to repair itself, and it only happens while you're asleep. And number 2, your mind itself needs to recharge and rebuild memories. And you can't remember things properly if you don't sleep. So you must sleep, so that you recharge your mind and recharge your body. You have to. And you have to exercise, and you have to eat healthy foods, which are high in enzymes, which means the foods are alive, like an apple is alive, pizzas are not alive. Do you know what I mean? Biscuits, which is my big one, my big problem. I had to get rid of it as one of my addictions, because biscuits are not alive.
No, not at all.
So you have to be healthy. And so if you manage your health and you manage your state of mind, then essentially become focused. Choose something because obviously here's the problem as well. People want to make money and don't want to master anything. Well, that's like me saying, I want to be a singer, but I can't sing and I don't want to practice. Well, short of me joining a punk band and making noise, who's going to really be successful not being able to sing and want to be a singer? It's not really going to work for you. And so you have to, again, give yourself just give yourself time and the discipline to go and learn something to a good standard where you can give a good, high quality service to your customers. And again, it doesn't really matter what you do. So I'll give an example. In the Caribbean community, people love to open up a little patty shop, right? Or takeaway shop. And they haven't got the foggiest clue how to make customers feel really good buying stuff from you. Their mentality is I might shop this. What you want? And it's like, well, why do you have to have that mentality? Or they come in and they're vexed because their husband did something bad or their wife did something bad, and you give that to the customers. Hey, that's not their business. Leave your stuff at home. Do you know what I mean? Come into work, and you have to basically make your customers feel, as though they had a great experience being with you. So they want to come back, and they tell their friends, oh, by the way, you see Angela looked after me really good, You want to go to Angela, she started you out. No one's going to recommend you when you're rude to your customers and impatient with them. No, it doesn't work. So you have to in fact, there's an old saying, the customer is king. But if the customer is king, then look after them.
Absolutely. There's enough misery cafes around, isn't there?
Misery cafe.
Oh gosh, yes.
And again, you can't be the best by hating what you do and being miserable. It's not possible.
No.
So you have to love what you do.
You may as well not bother.
Yeah, you have to love what you do. And so if you don't love serving chips and serving patty, then don't do it. Go and find something else you like to do. That when you
Yes.
come into work, your natural love and enthusiasm for what you do will rub off. So I'll tell you this as well. If you go to someone who genuinely loves what they do, their enthusiasm is infectious. The enthusiasm is infectious. And they'll just make you like whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really into cooking and food, right? That's not really my thing. But I met this chef, right? And this chef was so passionate about food and preparing it and cutting it and whatever, sauteing it, and you name whatever you do to food. He was so passionate that I was just vibing off his energy. I was vibing
Oh,
off him. This man was just he got me sucked in. I could listen to this man talking about food for like 2 hours. Nobody else though, only him, because of his energy. You know.
that's amazing.
And that's what you should be in your business. So when you're going
Yeah.
to business now, you should be so passionate about what you're doing for the benefit of your customers that they just vibe off you and they want to come back because you're making them feel good by spending money with you. And
That's
there you go.
absolutely right. And there is a lot to be said about that and energy. I totally get what you're saying. And it's amazing how you can feel it. You know, someone said to me many years ago that they could actually feel the love and positive energy that goes into food when it's being cooked.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really, really surprised. The person said to me, I don't eat from anyone except for my mum because she has true love for me. And I'm thinking,
That's a prime example. When your mum is cooking for you, because your mum loves you so much, she's going to make sure it's just right. It tastes just right.
exactly,
She knows what you like, and she takes pride in
exactly.
making sure that when you come home, there's a smile on your face. That makes her feel good. And guess what?
Yes,
There's love there. And a chef should do that
absolutely.
to their customers as well.
Yeah. And this is, as business people, this is what we should be doing. So this brings it back to, again, being passionate and enthusiastic about what you're doing, because it does show. Without a doubt, it will show. People will see it. And before you know it, you've built a reputation that you really could do without if you get to do it that way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But just moving on to something else, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you've got a book out as well, haven't you?
It's
You just
called
one book out.
it's called Wealth Money Can't Buy.
Right. Okay. Where could people find it if they wanted to purchase it?
I've sold out.
Oh my word.
I've,
Bestseller. I am
I've,
not
I've
surprised.
sold out. And look, here's the truth. When I first wrote that book, I really wrote it for my children. Because
Oh,
I just thought, you know what, there's some things I've learnt that it would be useful just to pass on to them. And so I really wrote it for them with them in mind. Just so, because when they were young, I'd play things like Monopoly with them and various games with them. But a few of my kids they've got the kind of careers which are short careers, i.e. like sportsmen. So I knew that by the age of 30, they're going to be retired. And the last thing I wanted for my son was to basically, you know, do very, very well. And then he's working in McDonald's. Do you know what I mean? At the age of 40, because his football career is over. I didn't really want that. So I just want him to understand how to manage money and just be in a situation where you're financially free. So
yeah.
what does financial freedom look like? As a formula, here's what it is. You need to have passive income, which is greater than your lifestyle expenses.
Yeah.
So let's say that your expenses are maybe £3,000 every month. You want to have an income coming in, which you don't work for, which you do not work for. You want an income coming in, which you don't work for, which is more than £3,000.
Yes.
And you build it up over time. It might take you 10 years to get there. But think about this. It could take you 10 years to become financially free. Whereas with a pension is also financial freedom, by the way, because you're getting money for not working anymore with the pension. But with the pension, you've got 20 or 65.
Yes.
You could teach your kids how to be free in 10 years. So by the time they're 30, they're free. They get the pension early. Then they can do something that's useful, like go and solve a real problem. You know, go and do something useful. Go into politics. Just do something that they find a better use of their time.
Yes. Yeah. That's amazing. But well, all I'll say is that I think people listening in will want to receive that book. And I will say this, Miles, you are going to be bringing some on Team Day and you're going to sign some, aren't you? Although it's quite a way away, but will you be bringing some on Team Day?
Absolutely.
Oh,
How could I say no to that request?
Well, I think that's wonderful. And also, you're going to be doing another course. You said you're going to be doing it at the end of this month.
That's correct.
How do people get onto that? Are there still spaces?
There are still spaces. And so how do you get onto that? Via Angela, express your interest.
Okay.
If you're on this call, via Angela, express your interest, and you'll get a discount for being a team member. But express your interest, and then you can join on board. So what is it we teach? We teach you a system of tapping into the stock market that allows you to take money off the table that's been paid out. So for example, this week, £5 billion has been paid out. Free money to shareholders. And I can show you how to qualify for that. Not all of the 5 billion, obviously, but I can show you how to qualify for that money. And all you got to do is literally put your bucket out while it rains money. And I just show you how that works, how the system works. And this is how the very wealthiest people are in England and on planet Earth. This is what they do. They set up large corporations set up to feed them, and they get passive income, and that's how they live. They live on passive income. So passive income would be money. Again, passive income is money you don't work for. So it's rental income, rent from property you own. It will be dividends from shares you own. It would be interest from cash or bonds that you own. It would be, if you're a franchise, or it would be the franchise fee plus royalties, again, from what you're doing there. If you're a musician, then you're getting royalties from the songs that are played on the radio, as well as sold in the shops. And you'll get money from your concerts. Obviously, you're working to do concerts, but when it's played on the radio, you're not working, and you get paid for that. The BBC, I believe, pay the highest rate of royalties. It then goes down to levels to then you get to the commercial radio stations, and then the pirate radio stations don't pay anything at all. So if your tune is blowing up on a pirate radio station, you're not getting paid. But if your tune gets blown up on BBC or the Capital Radio and those stations, you get paid. You get paid royalties. So there are lots of ways to generate an income, and everybody on this call who's in business, you should use a part of your money to actually invest in things that pay you an income. And I'll tell you who did that. A guy called Bill Gates from Microsoft in the 1990s. When I was in America, I decided to, because I was in Seattle now, so I'm actually around the corner from where he's based. And because I was physically in his environment, I decided to study him and study his company and what they do. And so looking through their balance sheet and his accounts, I could see there was one particular year, I can't remember what year it was now, but there's one particular year that if he did not sell a single piece of software for the whole year, he would still have enough money to pay all his salaries. Wow. And the question is how? How was he able to have no sales for a whole year and still pay all his bills? And that's because the passive income he was getting from other companies he invested in, who was paying him money, that money was bigger than his basically his payroll bill. It was bigger, and so therefore he could literally, not make anything for a year, or not sell anything. Actually, not sell anything for a year, and he would still be fine. And there was a time when when Apple was going to go out of business, and he supported them. Well, Apple, if he kept the shares, I don't know if he kept the shares, but if he did keep the shares, every time Apple had made money, Bill Gates would get rich. And that's what they do. They invest in the top companies in various industries, and as their competitors become successful, they get rich. And that's the game they play.
This is just amazing. And it seems, again, so simple, doesn't it? And, well, it is simple. We know it is taking that brave step and doing that. And I must say, going back to your program, absolutely amazing. I did it last year, and it has been so enlightening, and listening to how others have joined, and they're well on their way now. It really is amazing. And I would really encourage all of you to even look at it, because, oh my goodness, all I can say is that we're sleeping, really. We're still sleeping. And when you actually see what there is available, I know there are some people on this call tonight that actually are involved with investments and putting their hands in their pockets and looking for the return of investments. You know, there are things out there, properties and all sorts. So yeah, it's really good. Okay, I'm watching the time, and I know that the people must be burning to get questions in. So I suggest at this moment in time that we unmute everyone and give people an opportunity to ask any questions. So thanks for those people that have joined us during the call, during that chat. Okay, is there anyone that would like to ask a question? Nobody? I'm very surprised. No one got a question at all? Has anyone done one of Miles's programs at all?
Yes, I have.
Who's that? Oh, hi Beth. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Oh, so only Bev's done one of Miles's programs.
Bev.
Yeah.
Tell them your best month or best week.
Yes.
On your program.
Of course.
Okay, so. Okay, so I'm not sure which figure. I remembered we did BP and we did RTZ, I think, the following week. And with BP, I earned something like 36,000 in one day. And with RTZ, Rio Tinto, it was 26,000 in one day. And then after that, I looked at a percentage, not of those two trades, but of something else. And it was 172% in one day. And I can't remember whether, I can't remember which was the bigger number, but I just remember those three figures that I've experienced in the last 2 to 3 years.
And what's an average week look like?
I'm sorry?
What does an average week look like for you?
Right, so every week, if you're trading once a week, every week, initially, you could earn anything from 20 to 100%. It just depended on which companies were coming up and what they were paying. However, that doesn't work anymore because I think it's since last year or the year before, the FCA stepped in and stopped people like us from earning those large sums of money. And what we were able to do is we were able to earn a huge amount of money by just putting down a 5% deposit on our trade. But now we have to put down 20%, so they've made it more expensive for us. So now it's cut down to, I don't know, maybe 30% might be the maximum that you can earn, but 30% a week is still decent money.
It is. Yeah, absolutely is.
And it could be anything. It can start as low as 7%, probably to a maximum. Maximum 20, 30%. Whereas before, you could hit 100% quite easily.
Yes. Well, it's still good. It's still good, and probably one of the best options we've got to get some return of investment. Again, if you know the right, So that's really good. Has anyone else got any questions or anything about investments? Have we got any investors on this group that's on tonight? Does anyone got properties or anyone that does stocks and shares?
I also do have properties as well that I've invested in.
Wow.
That's really what created my financial freedom. Was the investment of properties, and I started in the I think I got my first investment property in '92. and slowly built up from there. What you were saying about the government making it a bit more difficult for people who don't have their business in a company is true. If you were to try and buy property, a second property now, or third or fourth, they want you to pay an additional 3%,
right,
on the stamp duty.
yes.
So, so the way to get around that would be to try and secure properties up north,
Right, yes,
where you don't have to pay any stamp duty at all.
yes,
So if you buy properties under the stamp duty, that gets rid of that problem.
yes. Okay, but it's worthwhile looking into, definitely.
Another thing you can do, which is what happens with the guys in the other end of London. I was looking at a portfolio of about 26 million, and what they would do is you would get the seller to put all of their properties. It was a portfolio, by the way. You put all their properties inside a company, right? And so the company becomes the owner of the property. So imagine, Angela, you own a property of 26 million. You would put it into a company, right? And then I would come along and buy the company. If I bought the company and not the properties, then I would get all those properties for free with the company.
Yes.
Yeah. And there'd be no stamp duty. So that's how you get around that one. So the guys at the top end, because obviously stamp duty at £26 million will kill you. I mean, you think stamp duty is bad when it's like a £200,000 property. At £26 million, it will kill you, the stamp duty. So again, it's a case of incorporate, put it into a company. And like I said, what they're doing, they're hurting the small players because they, it is what it is.
Well, all interesting stuff to me. Is that all in your book as well?
There is something in the book about how to buy property for nothing. Now, what's interesting is that the formula doesn't work with banks anymore, but the formula still works. Okay. Would you like me to share with you how that works?
Yes, please.
Who said yes, please?
Colin Sims.
Well then, Colin, why don't you ask me the question, I'll answer your question.
Beg your pardon?
Ask the question, I'll answer it for you.
How is it possible that I can purchase a property without paying anything for it?
All right, here's how it works. If you, let's pretend the house is worth £100,000.
Yes.
How much mortgage can you get on that? Do you know?
Me personally?
Yeah, anybody. Assume that you're going to rent it out. So just go with a commercial one, a buy-to-let mortgage. What they're going to what will they give you?
What percentage? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, the mortgage. Does anyone know?
I'm not sure. I'd say 50%.
They'll give you probably, most banks will now give you 80%. But 70% is a definite, and depending on your personal record, you may get it for 80%, but no higher.
Okay.
Okay, so lovely. So now, Colin, this property for £100,000, right? The bank will give you 80,000, right?
Yes.
How much have you got to raise?
20.
So suppose you were really skillful, Colin, and you had got a silver tongue in your mouth, right? And you just know how to talk and make. Remember what I said before? You must make your customers feel good about themselves. Remember that one?
Yes.
Okay. So now, if you're talking to someone who wants to sell you the property, then they're effectively your customer, right? So you've got to find a way to make them feel good. All right. So when they talk to you, they love talking to you because whatever you say, they just walk away thinking, "Boy, Colin's a nice man, Am I right still?" All right. So what you have to raise is £20,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question. Suppose you were able to negotiate a 20% discount.
Negotiate 20% discount.
Imagine if you could negotiate a 20% discount just by talking. You negotiate a 20% discount, right?
Yes.
The bank will give you 80.
Yeah.
20 grand is your discount. How much do you have to pay out of your pocket?
None.
Now you know the formula.
That's great. Simple, but just like, okay.
What it is, Colin, is a paradigm shift. That's all it is. Yeah. It's a paradigm shift. So who would give you 20% discount? So let me tell you who would do it. You want to buy in bulk. Now, but by the way, let me say this again to you. If you pay nothing for a property, how much can you have before you run out of money?
How much can I have?
Yeah, how many properties could you have before you ran out of money if you paid nothing for it?
As many as I like. Oh, that's how I look at it.
In other words, there's no limit, is there?
No limit, no.
Not with that formula. Okay, right. So if you go to a developer and you say to them, you like to buy 30 houses at a 20% discount, right? Now, you've got to do it at the right time. But if you said that to them, then basically it's like when you buy anything in bulk, you can always achieve a price per unit, can't you?
Yes.
There you go. So that's the formula. Go to someone who has a large portfolio property that's willing to sell at a discount. Do you know I said in earlier that I was looking at a property portfolio for 26 million?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Now, the reason why that came across, basically an estate agent basically said to me, could I analyze their portfolio and look at it from the perspective of an investor? So I'm giving investor advice to an estate agent, all right? And so the property, when it's fixed up, you got to fix it up, and you got to spend about what was it, 10 million pounds fixing it? You got to spend 10 million pounds fixing it up, right? But when you fix it all up, the value of the property is called the GDV value, the gross domestic value of the property is worth 52 million pounds. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So is it worth it to basically borrow 26 plus 10 to get 52 million back? Is that worth it? So you're spending 36 to get 52. Is that worth it?
I would have thought so, yes, because it's an increase, isn't it?
The answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
And so I just said to him, if you sell the property for 26 million pounds, you'll sell that property all day long. Now, it just so happens that the administrators are basically accountants who basically take over the property of someone who goes bankrupt or someone who becomes insolvent. So accountants come in and start basically looking to sell the assets. When you are buying distressed properties from an accountant, they are not emotionally attached to those properties. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They're not going to be saying, "Why we can't take my property?" No. There's none of that emotion there. They'll just do a deal with you. If you buy everything off them, they'll sell it to you at a discount. Here's another one who will sell property at a discount. When banks repossess properties and they're struggling to get rid of them because the market might be soft, as in like a recession, right? If you approach a bank in that kind of time and you say, I'll buy what you got, you can negotiate any discount you like. These repossessed properties, right? The banks have them and they're empty. Banks don't like being landlords. They want money. They're in the business of lending money, not managing property. Go to a bank and say to them, I will buy whatever you have on your books that you've repossessed, and you can negotiate discounts.
Right.
And because, like I said, because you can get any volume, you have to just know that you have to buy maybe 10, 20, 30 properties off them, and you've got it, and you get them all for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't ask them for the mortgage, though. You can't ask the bank who's selling it to you for the mortgage. You've got to go to another bank for that. Does it make sense? If you go to Lloyd's...
Ask part again.
If you go to Lloyd's Bank and say you would like to buy 30 property off them, which they've repossessed, you can't ask Lloyd's for the mortgage.
The Barclays say, and then the Barclays.
You go to Barclays first, get them to agree to the mortgage in principle, and then go to Lloyd's and say, I'll take them off your hands, and then get Barclays to give you the mortgage. But don't go to Lloyd's for the mortgage. That's the only problem that the only thing you got to watch out for. Don't ask the person giving you the property to give you the mortgage too.
Okay. Now, if I was to go to Barclays, say, and told them this is what I want to do, obviously they'd be aware that I'm buying these properties from Lloyd's, yeah? Well, they want to.
You don't want to tell them all the details.
No.
You don't know because they have this model that they say we're going to give you the mortgage based on the lower of the market value or the price you are paying for it. So if you are paying 20% discount, then they're going to give you they're going to say, right, the property's not worth 100, it's only worth 80, and they're going to give you 80% of 80. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So you don't want to tell them all your business, or else they'll give you less money, and then now you've got to fork out some cash from somewhere.
Now, could you just say that sentence again? I said yes, but I didn't really. It's got in one ear and come out the other. Just I needed to lodge.
Okay.
So,
we're going to go with the example of a house is worth 100,000.
yeah.
Right. So we know that the banks will give you 80 grand. Yeah?
Yeah.
But they've got this rule. And then the rule is they will only give you 80% of the lower of these two numbers, the value of the property or the price you pay for it.
Right. Okay.
So because you're only paying 80,000, they're going to give you 80% of 80,000.
Okay.
If you tell them that you're buying it for cheaper than what it really is.
So it's telling the market value.
So what you want to do so that you're not, so you don't get exposed into any mortgage fraud problems, what you want to do is do what you call first stage funding. Go to somebody who is not a bank and buy the property. Put it in your name. Once the property is in your name, 6 months later, you can go to the bank and ask them to give you a mortgage on your property, and they will value it at market value, because the formula they have, which is the lower of market value and what you pay for it, well, what you pay for it is not relevant. It's yours. Don't give me what's yours now. Do you know what I mean? And do it as a business, not as an individual. So it has to be a limited company.
I see.
If you do it as a business, then you'll get treated like you'll be given respect. You'll they will give you in those terms. And also, don't come to this completely green. Do you understand? Don't be saying, I've never ever bought one house in my life. I'm going to buy 50 properties, because you don't know how to manage properties. So get some experience first before you even go down this road, if you've never done it before.
See, I mean, yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about, I think they own over, I think it's 300 industrial units.
Mm-hmm.
That's not on one site, by the way. That's 300 sites.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, and this is just in one city, you know.
Mm-hmm. But now you know how they do it.
Yes.
Now you know.
Because I know this. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I realized that obviously 2008 created a lot of problems. A lot of businesses were under, and since that. And so there's a lot of sites where, the landlords are struggling. So, it's, obviously there's a bit of issues, whether they're selling off sites or whatever, but someone's been able to go in and buy a bulk. Because to own 300 sites in one city is phenomenal. I don't think they just go around and build it. I don't think they went around and built them, actually purchased what was existing. So I wondered how they did it, but that kind of makes sense, perhaps. That's how they did it.
And so the best time to buy property is when there is a recession and they're going cheap.
Yeah.
But there's only one challenge. You need to have physical cash flow coming from somewhere to allow you to service everything. And so it helps if you have a business where your business is making you money. So therefore, okay, let me give you a formula. Here's the formula that is advised. First of all, start a business and make your business make £1 million. Okay, if your business can't make £1 million, don't do that business. Do one that can.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So find a business that has the potential to make £1 million every year. Once you go in that business, now you've got cash flow to go and become your own bank, and you can do the first stage funding for yourself. And if there's any fix up needs to be done, you can do it. Because when there's a recession, banks don't want to lend anybody any money. But if you've got your own business where you are throwing cash off, then you can do it yourself. You can be your own lender.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's really helpful, insightful.
No, you're welcome.
Okay, that is very, very interesting. Okay, has anyone else got any questions? Any thoughts?
I've got a few questions. Well, one question really. Miles, how many investment ideas have you got, and how do you manage them?
How many investment ideas do I have, and how do I manage them? All right. Remember, you have to make them passive. You're better off having things that don't take up your time. Yeah, and then it becomes easy to manage. If you have a business or you have an income stream that takes, say, 10 hours of your time a week, well, how many hours are there? I'm sorry, not in a week, in a day, for example. Let's say it takes 5 hours. Let's say you say 6 hours of your time in a day, right? Well, how many of those can you do before you run out of time? Only 4. Well, because you got to sleep, then it's less than 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so what you want is passive income you make without having to work. You may have to do initial work, but once that initial work is done, it's done. They're the best ones to go for. And if you look at my model, I've got like an asset analysis chart, which is in your trainer manual, and I'll tell you what page it's on, Dion, so you can go and have a look at it. I think it's on page. Let's have a look. And what this talks about is the difference between assets and liabilities and which ones you need to have. But you want to go for class 1 assets. It's on page 8. If you go to page 8 in your user manual, in your training manual that you got, page 8, and look at class 1 and just study it. And you only want to focus on class 1. Anything else, forget about it. It's not your business. Class 1 assets you want to look at. On page 8, got the book, just look at that. And whenever you see something, if it doesn't follow the rule of class 1, don't buy it. Because it will give you a problem of some type. Either will give you a capital growth problem or will give you a cash flow problem. And you don't want to have either one of those 2 problems.
Okay. You still didn't answer the question though.
How many do I have? All right, well, let me tell you ones I'm exposed to. So I've done film financing. I've done music financing, album financing. I've done property financing. I've done stock market financing. I've done, okay, let me share this one with you. This is about a business, right? This is how business people become millionaires and billionaires. Shall I share that with you?
Yeah.
Ask the question. How do business people become millionaires and billionaires? Go for it. Ask the question, Deal.
How do business people become millionaires and billionaires, Miles?
Okay, here is the model. Number 1, you start a business that you can scale. Scale means that you can grow it beyond your physical capacity to do all the work yourself, which means you get other people in the business working the business. So what you're going to focus on is a process. Look at procedures that few people follow, and those procedures manage the businesses running effectively. Once you have that in place, you can then scale it. So you can say, okay, I've got one in Leicester, I'll do one in Coventry, and I'll do one in Birmingham, I'll do one in London, and so on and so forth. You can just have lots of them, right? And you just basically roll out the same model. Once you do that, and each one is profitable, so it's now throwing cash at you, okay? So it becomes like the investment property where you're just getting cash, right? Once you do that, you then sell shares in the business. If you sell shares in your business revenue multiplies by roughly about anywhere between 4 and 10 for a private company, and anywhere between maybe up to it could be 20 or even 30 for the PLC companies on the stock market. So what does all that mean? Here's what it means. Let's pretend in the case of Colin runs off and does what I said, right? And he has a business that makes profit of £2 million every year. Let's say that. If he now sells shares in his business, his profits will now be worth, so his business would go from being worth £2 million to him, and it'll be now 2 million times 10. He can sell his business for £20 million, which is basically 10 times 10 years of profits. And he can sell it now for that price. So let's say he wants to sell half his business. He can collect £10 million now. And all he has to do is give his shareholders dividends. And he takes the 10 million now and does it again. And does it again, and does it again, and does it again. This is how Bill Gates became a billionaire. He didn't become a billionaire from selling software around the world. He became a billionaire by selling shares in his business. And so, in other words, his product is not software. His product is his business. Now, when I said that to a couple of people, they looked at me like, Miles, you're frying my head. What are you saying to me? I'm saying to you, they start off with selling a product. Let's call it, Excel software. But then after a while, once that business is established, they start selling shares in the business itself. And when you start selling shares in the business, that makes your wealth grow exponentially. And if you do it in 4 or 5 companies and 10 companies where you put management in place and they're professional people, not your mates, they're professionals and they're absolutely brilliant at what they do, then guess what? You're on the road to becoming a billionaire, and that's how it works. That's how the game works. If you want to see an example of a real life black billionaire, the first one actually in America, his name is Reginald Lewis. And he wrote a book called Why Should Black Guys Have All the Fun? Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? And he wrote it in the 1980s, and he was the first black billionaire in America. And he was basically playing the game of buying and selling companies that made money and paid shareholders money. And that's it.
Thank you.
Well,
If you're doing that strategy, does your company have to have like a minimum turnover before you start to sell shares?
It's not turnover that gives you a valuation, it's profit.
Oh, profit. Okay.
It's profit. So you do want, all right, let's say your business is making, say, £2,000 a year profit. Well, 2,000 times 10 is 20,000. Is that worth selling?
20,000. No.
20,000, is that worth selling? No, it's not. So you want to get a decent size profit, yes?
Yeah.
And then it becomes worth it.
Okay.
And you want to plan to do this from the beginning, which is why you need to have, and by the way, this is not something that one person could do, because I don't know a single person who on their own built £1 billion business, not on their own. You have to have a team. You have to go and you have a bunch of people who work with you, and they're basically your partners. And you just work with people who are hardworking, dedicated, enthusiastic, full of energy, and they're the people you work with. And they will help you to grow it because they're going to get rich too. And that's who you basically work with. But like I said, not many people can do it on their own. Bill Gates started with his business partner called Paul Allen, and Steve Jobs started with his business partner called Steve Wozniak. So they all have partners who they get energy from and vibe off and work hard. And they've all got different skills, by the way. You want people who are brilliant at what you can't do, and vice versa. You're brilliant at what they can't do. And then you have all the bases covered. But if you want to be a solo entrepreneur by yourself, do your own thing on your own, then you're kind of a little bit limited. And you don't need to go that route.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brilliant. Well, all I can say to everyone that has not done the course or any other courses, think about it, because you can get more information like this from doing the program. Okay, and if you want to find out more about it, do ask Miles. As I said earlier, if you're interested in joining, then contact me. Okay, Miles, thank you so much. It was great.
You're more than welcome.
Let everyone know, those that probably weren't on the call at the beginning, Miles will be joining us on Team Day, and we'll be doing a session. Last year's was great, but those that went in then had a great time. So I know you're in for another good one this year. Okay. So again, thank you, Miles. And
you're more than welcome.
I think it's time now that we move over to the discussion for this month, which is going to be about complaints management. It is 9:05, so at 10 o'clock, I will prompt everyone like I normally do to say that it's that time, and we'll see where we are and how many people want to stay on the call or if we have to go, because I know everyone's busy. Okay, so complaints management. What is it? What is a complaint? Someone define what is a complaint.
Someone telling you what you can do to make yourself better.
Really?
I like the way. I like that.
I like it. I like
A
it.
little twist there, yeah.
That is true. True.
You can look at it
So,
either way.
sorry?
You can look at that either way. So you can. Miles just looked at that in the positive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have any of you on here tonight been the bearer of complaining? Have any of you had to go and complain?
Yeah.
Okay. Michelle, Michelle, is everyone unmuted? Is everyone able to unmute themselves if they want to be part of engaging? Just want to check because I see Michelle's got a hand up and I just want to make sure she's okay. All right. Okay. So what's been your situation, Michelle?
Which one is more the question?
Oh, who's this one for us?
I don't consider it necessarily complaining. I consider it feedback most of the time because it depends on the situation. So, for example, if I'm in a restaurant, I'll give you a very simple example. A really fabulous restaurant opened up in my neighborhood, 5-star restaurant, and food was fabulous. And then they rocked up with these rolls that looked like they just ran down to Tesco and put them in a basket, cold rolls. And you're spending like £30 for a plate of really nice steak, or in my case, I had a Barnsley chop. And, you know, you're having really fine wine, and then you've got this tough old cold roll being stuffed on a plate. I was just like, that's unacceptable, you know? But I think it's all about how you deliver it. Complaint is all about how you deliver it. I just, but I'm all about communication, so I don't find screaming and making a scene anything appropriate. All I just said to them was, you're going to be the restaurant in the area, and I just think you sort of let yourselves down a little bit with this, and I'd love you to pass this on to the chef because I think he did a great job with everything else. But for you guys to serve rolls that are cold and definitely taste like you just, if they're a 5-star restaurant, they should be baking their own rolls, to be quite honest. But I just sort of said, I just think it's really not, it lets you down. You have a certain standard, and then you deliver these cold rolls that taste like they just came out of a plastic bag out of some supermarket. And I just think that's really, unfortunate. And I said I would go back because I would, but I would expect them to change the rolls. So, I mean, that's a very simple example of a complaint. But I think it's important to give people feedback because then it gives them an opportunity to fix something.
Do you think that based on what the complaint could be or feedback could be, that you could probably deal with it more harshly? So say, for instance, it wasn't simply about the bread roll, but more that you've actually found, I don't know, a slug or something, or I don't know, a worm or whatever in your food,
Right.
which is nice. Would you? I mean, it's still feedback all the same, but would it? Would it be nice?
I mean, I just think I tend to be the diplomat, but I would show my shock and dismay. Of course, I'd just be like, what happened here? This is really awful. I'm not expecting this when I come to a venue like this. I'm just not one to make that kind of a scene because, you're in a restaurant, stuff happens behind the scenes, but it's unacceptable nonetheless. But I wouldn't make a scene. I just don't think that helps anyone. You'd have to do something really bad. Maybe if somebody said something racist to me directly, maybe I might make a scene then. But if it's something in line with their service and it's directed at me, but it's not directly directed at me. It's the delivery of the food or the way something was served to me, but it's not the way you're speaking to me, whatever. I just wouldn't really raise my voice about something. I just don't think that helps anyone. No one's communicating then. I'm screaming at you and you're just hearing me scream. That's it.
Okay.
For me.
I'm just saying, Ange, I had a situation myself when I took the kids out.
Who's this?
It's Romanita.
Hiya.
Hi. And there was something actually in one of their pizzas. It looked like something metal. So I know. So I just sort of...
repeat that. It looked like what?
Like a metal pizza, like a chip of something. I don't know what it was.
Oh,
it was just a very small, but when I said stop and I looked at it, it was actually something, was a chip of some, I don't know. So when I just called the lady who was serving us over, and I just asked to speak to whoever's in charge of the restaurant. And we dealt with it that way. It was very discreet. I didn't make a big, even though it was something quite serious, I just dealt with it that way. And, they were apologetic, and obviously the bill was a little bit, but I find that myself when I come to making complaints, if you need to go beyond the immediate person in front of you, sometimes that actually works better, because they're not the one always responsible for what's going on. You see, so if you go off at that person, they're not one responsible, and they can't really do anything because they're not management. So I do tend to go a little further ahead, find out what's going on before I have to go off, then that's different. But I usually start off like that to complain.
Yeah, that's interesting. Have anyone else had any complaints? I mean, they're both restaurant type things. What about other things? I mean, we're quick enough to complain when we have utility bills, or when things we're not getting that particular type of service. That's having an impact. Has anyone been involved in anything else? Go ahead, Carmen.
Yeah, my parents got a parcel delivered to their house, and it was actually sent to the.
I could barely hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My parents got a parcel delivered to their house. It actually had their address on it, but the name was actually somebody else. Okay, so they delivered it to the wrong address, basically. And the person who it should have gone to lived on the other side of the road. And I looked up the postcode for where that person lived, and it was like the whole of the road, so I couldn't identify which house it was. So I think the delivery company was DPT, I think they're called, DPD, I think they're called. So I rang them up and I said, look, there's this parcel that's been delivered to my parents. It was really heavy. It was a couple of car parts, I think, in there, but it was really heavy. It was even heavy for my dad, so they couldn't really shift it, and I told them not to move it. So I rang up the company, and I think it took about 3 phone calls to the company before I got through to the supervisor, and I got so annoyed. Yeah, I was going to say another word, but I'll just stick to annoyed, that I actually asked to speak to one of the managers because I wasn't getting the service that I wanted. And they told me that they had rung the company that had delivered the parcel, and the company said, well, we delivered it to the right place. And so they said to me, well, there's nothing else that we can do because the delivery company had said that they delivered it to the right address. So I said to them, so you're quite happy, are you, with how you've treated me as a customer? You're quite happy with that response? Somebody has told you that they delivered it to the right address. Clearly, it's been delivered to the wrong address, and you're quite happy with the way that you've treated me as a customer. So they said, oh, well, yeah, because there's nothing else that we can do. You need to contact the delivery company and sort it out with the delivery company. So I said very calmly, well, I'm not going to contact the delivery company. I will be contacting the Citizens Advice Bureau to get more advice, because I'm not happy with the way that you've treated me, and I'm not happy with the way you've treated my parents. And as soon as I said that, they said, oh, well, what we can do. Yeah. So they rang the company back. After I mentioned the CAB, they rang the company back, and the company admitted that they'd sent it to the wrong address. Now, if I hadn't have, it wasn't a threat. I didn't threaten them with legal action, but I just basically said, I will be getting advice from the Citizens Advice Bureau. And as soon as they heard those words, that they completely changed their tack, completely changed his tone, and he ran back and apologized. Now, I shouldn't have, from my point of view, I shouldn't have had to do that. I shouldn't have had to threaten any sort of legal action, because if that was me, I would have done everything I could to make sure that I gave customer service and made sure that that person, whoever it was on the phone, was sorted out. So I wasn't happy at all with the service that I got, and like I say, I shouldn't have had to have resorted to almost threatening legal action. in order to you know, to get my query dealt with. And within a couple of days, the parcel had gone, and it had been at my parents' house for over a month, because nobody was taking responsibility.
Oh my goodness. And that leads me very nicely on to where we then sit as our own businesses and small businesses in that way, because I was thinking to myself, probably many of us do not have a department or anything set up that will deal specifically with complaints. And so therefore, if we have a customer that wants to complain, the escalation would probably be to an ombudsman or, you know, CAB or something, which would really ruin our reputation, could ruin our reputation. And I don't know, how many of you, has anyone got any complaints policies in their business? Anybody at all? No one's got any complaint policy? That's amazing. Based on the different types of things that could happen in your business, is it something that you would look at? No?
I think for me personally, as a sole trader, because of the nature of what I do, my business is very personal. Yes. And I think I expect people to come back to me personally if they're not happy. And I always say, if I email people, I always say, you know, let me know if you've got any queries, or just drop me an email, you know, drop me a message if you've got any queries, just to encourage people to come back to me if they have any questions or any queries, or they're not happy.
Yes. And that tends to work if you ever have any. I mean, I don't want people to feel that they have to share tonight any complaints that they've had, you know, unless you want to. I know it must be a very sensitive area.
My feedback on that is I find that sometimes people don't want to complain to me personally, either because they think I'm such a lovely person and they don't want to upset my constitution, or no, I'm not really sure actually, but people don't tend to complain to me. But to be fair to them, I let them complain to somebody else. And so I will say, if you wanna, you know, some people like to badmouth you behind your back. So I give them the opportunity to do that. So I'll give them someone to complain to. So I will maybe use someone like my sister, and I won't tell them who she is, and I'll just let them just complain. So if they want to have a moan, then they can talk to her, and I'll get the feedback. And then from there, I can fix the problem. Because sometimes people that don't want to complain to you, they'll either want to avoid confrontation, or they, you know, whatever the reasons are. So I get them to complain to somebody else. And that way they can feel free to get what have to get off their chest. And at least I get the feedback without having it be personal.
Yes. So as a second option then, what are your thoughts about having feedback questionnaires?
Very good idea. A folder, a lever arch folder with maybe a form, blank form in there, which you might call a feedback policy or complaints policy form, or a feedback policy form. And then when you get it, you can file them. But at the same time, every now and then go through them, make sure that the problems that people are complaining about, you fix. Because it's feedback. Yes. To improve your business.
Yes, absolutely right. Michelle. She's muted. You got your hand up, Michelle. Are you wanting to say something?
She's on.
I'm muted now. Thank you, Miles. I was just going to second what Miles said. I think feedback is critical to your business, to be honest. It's a way to learn what you're not doing as well at, and also attempt again to fix something that you may not have even been aware that you were doing incorrectly.
Yes.
So, for example, I do Airbnb in my house, for example, and you're asked to give feedback on the guests that stayed, as well as a separate feedback to them if there's something you want to say to them, but you don't want to make it public. And so you get an opportunity to do that, but they also get the opportunity to give feedback about you and also to give you feedback non-publicly as well. And I think it's great.
Yes.
And I've had somebody, so we're considered super hosts, which means, you know, you're the best at what you do in terms of renting rooms. And someone gave me 4 stars
Out
of 5 for cleanliness. Now, if you're taking care of a house, you don't want to see any 4, well, I don't want to see any 4 stars. I want to see 5 stars.
Yeah.
But they gave me 5 stars for everything else. And
Mm.
when they were leaving, they were saying, oh, it was great here. We loved it. We'll come and stay again, blah, blah, blah. So I was confused. So I went back to the person and said, hi, you know, thank you for your feedback. I just wanted to clarify something with you because I noticed you gave me 4 stars for cleanliness. And so if there was something in your room or in the bathroom, something that I was unaware of, please bring it to my notice because then I can fix it. Because I'm really surprised to get 4 stars. I've only ever had 5 stars. And she came back and said, oh, no. I don't know. I must have pressed the wrong button, but I always give 5 stars. I said, no, I'm not asking you to give me 5 stars. I just want to know if there is something wrong, I would like to fix it. And she swore up and down that it was an accident and that she would try to fix it. And she never changed it. And I don't know if she ever even attempted to. And I don't know if she felt embarrassed because I called her out, which wasn't about calling her out. It was more about just saying, you know, what was the problem? And she never gave me any feedback. But for me, I would have loved that because it could have been something really small that was bothering her that I didn't know. I don't know. You gave me a towel and it had a hole in the bottom. Maybe I didn't see the hole. Do you know what I mean? I just don't know what it was about. And so for me, that makes me more irritated, if you're not honest, because I don't get the opportunity to fix whatever I may have done wrong, whether it was something I was doing consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah.
So that's why I think feedback's really good.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so again, having feedback sheets and give your ratings if you're going to do it that way, but also giving people an opportunity to say why they didn't like it or why they liked it if they've scored highly. I think is always a good thing. Colin, you've got your hand up. Do you want to mute yourself? Probably Colin can't mute himself. Martin,
Can you hear me okay?
you can now.
All right, wonderful. I was going to say I don't have a complaints policy as such, but I do have a feedback sheet, which I reckon I should be using more for my clients who attend, or perhaps even put it on my webpage so people can go there and do it. But yeah, I think it's important that you do get some feedback. I think one of the questions in my feedback form is there anything that we could have done better to make your experience with us, more improved or whatever? And so I'm really kind of putting the ball in their court to say, look, is there a problem? I'm not just going to say, well, it could be, for example, was the room warm enough? Because some people come and have a massage treatment, and because the place isn't warm enough, then they may not tell you, they may not tell me personally, but they'll probably just never come back again. And and I'm wondering why. Is it because of my general customer service? Is because of my prices? It could be a whole host of things. I'll be thinking it was a whole host of things, but it could be one simple thing like the temperature could have been up a couple more degrees. So feedback for me is very important because it helps to build a business because it's securing future business from other people if you've got the right environment, if the price is right, if you're pleasant enough, if you're professional enough, if you're knowledgeable enough, you know what I mean? So those questions are in my questionnaire to kind of ask people generally. And I think I've been online before for the best of Wolverhampton, where people can comment on the service that they've received and said, whether, whatever standard they felt it was at. And so I've been voted best of Wolverhampton at some point, but I'm not signed up to that anymore. But, it's great getting feedback.
Yeah. So do you do feedback sheets with all your clients?
No. I should do. I kind of get in the business mode and think, right, what time's my next client? Because I need to be ready for that person, have everything prepared. And in between that, I'll just a bit of a warm down time. But it's something I need to do more often, put it that way. I realise that now, following the fact that I don't have a complaints policy as such, but the feedback form can cover both areas of any complaints people want to make, or suggestions or recommendations. Or
Yes. And we know that with the social media being out there, people are always quick to go and use that. And
yes.
just one bad remark, and that can go against us.
Well, ironically, I mean, I went to America, to Florida a few weeks back, and booked the hotel and flight and everything. And when I finally got the information for the flight, I realised that there was no luggage included. So I went back up to the TUI, I should mention their name, and just said, listen, this is the situation. He says, oh, they didn't realise. Oh, I'm just going to have to pay. I said, excuse me, you know, I paid in good faith. I was told that luggage was included up to 23K. And to cut a long story short, they were saying, well, you know, they spoke to the third party host who they got the deal through, and said, that host said, well, I'm going to have to pay for the luggage, but they'll put the money back in my account by the time I get back from America. So I thought, all right, I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me just go to a small claims court. Yeah, and we'll probably sort it out that way a bit quicker before I leave. Or what I could do, or you may have noticed a lot of companies, air companies that have got some bad press recently. So I think I might go on social media and let people know exactly how you treat your customers. So within about 12 minutes, I got a phone call saying, oh no, we can put the money through your account. Just give us your account number.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because they were saying, well, we can't pay for your luggage personally. You have to pay for yourself, because if we pay for your luggage, that means it's our luggage. I'm thinking, don't put that exclusion clause on me. You made an error, correct it, or there will be consequences. It wasn't a threat. It's just saying, well, look, you know, people have been treated unfairly, especially black people. That's I'll just have to play any card I can play in order to get my rights. You know what I mean? So it didn't take them very long to correct it.
Wow.
There's more to that story than it ends, but I'll give you that bit anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's just amazing. It makes me wonder. Let's put it this way, I'm not going to mention names because it wouldn't be professional of me, but I will say that even within team, over the years, I've received people disgruntled because of services, products that have not been up to scratch, if you like. You know, that's been sold B2B within team.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just by the grace of God that some people haven't gone further and escalated it to an ombudsman or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be interesting to find out about how any of you would deal with certain things if you had one that you would be prepared to share, you know, or what you would do if you what you'd actually do, you know. Could you imagine yourself having something? I know Alfie probably can't come on board, but I was just thinking that if someone came and said something about one of your products. Alfie, you're on.
I'm on.
Hello.
Hi.
Have you ever received any complaints about not necessarily your product, but anything about anything to do with the content of the product, the whole service?
I've had feedback to the effect that perhaps we could use a different container for our products. They like what it does, but because it can be oily, they suggested putting it in other types of applicators and such like. We've had that. I've had the only other feedback or complaints kind of thing that I've had is on postage. And just recently I had a lady that she didn't actually complain, but she kept contacting me and telling me that she hadn't received her parcel. And I explained to her that I do have proof of postage. It has been sent off, but she said she hadn't got it. But after a couple of days, I began to think that she wasn't really. If I had a parcel to come and it'd been a few days, and quite obviously, this was about 6 days now. I hadn't received it. I'd be jumping up. I'd be jumping up and down for that parcel when I know that it's supposed to be coming within a couple of days. But she was very calm, and it made me doubt the credibility of, you know, whether or not she'd received it. Anyway, I realised on that particular occasion that I could track the parcel. When I tracked it, it said that they were unable to deliver it. And then, so then I looked at her address, and I could see that her road was odd numbers, but she had given me an even number for her door. So ironically, to cut a long story short, she then contacted me. When I contacted her and said to her, I don't know what's happened about this parcel. You should have got it by now, but what I'll do is I'll investigate and I'll contact Royal Mail and see what's happening with it. And then a bit later on in the day, she contacted me to say that, you know, she's a bit embarrassed because she can see that she actually gave me the wrong address. So it wasn't actually me, an error on our part, it was an error on her part. But I said, even though you've given us the wrong address, we have a registered office, which is not where we live, not even in the same city. So, and we put that registered address on all our parcels when we send it out, so that if it's ever undelivered, they can deliver it. So I know that that parcel is going to go to this office and then be sent on to me, and I know that's going to be at the earliest 1 month. But I said to her, I see that the error was yours, but I will still replace your order now, so that you're not, so you can get on with using it, and we'll wait for this to come back in whatever condition it does come back. So that's the only thing that we had. But I hate to have complaints, and I bend over backwards if I do. You know, I would offer, you know, I'll offer some sort of, you know, maybe a discount or a, you know, free postage or something if it turns out to be my error. But luckily, with the posting, it's not. I have posted late, and through circumstances, you know, beyond my control, and I have to apologise for that when someone's paid first class, and then I've offered them some sort of recompense for that. Nothing big, but, you know, some sort of recompense.
Do you do feedback sheets as well?
You know what, Angela, I'm listening to what you're saying there about feedback sheets, and I'm thinking that would be a really good thing for me to do. I don't do them, but I regularly ask for feedback because I contact my customers, not everybody, but as much as I can. I contact them a couple of weeks after they've made a purchase, and I do it a couple of weeks after because I don't do it like I don't tend to do it like a month or 6 weeks later, because I don't want them to think I'm contacting them to get them to buy some more. Oh, you should have finished it now. It's been 6 weeks. You know, you should be buying some more. So I tend to do it after about 2 weeks when it's quite obvious they couldn't have finished it, and I'm just really looking for, you know, to find out how they're getting on with the oil. You know, did it arrive in a good state and all that sort of thing. So I do that regularly. So I'm always soliciting feedback to see how we're doing and how they're doing with the product.
How about, just a thought, how about putting a slip in the parcel and ask to go onto a platform where they can complete a questionnaire at their own leisure, so they'll get it in the parcel. It won't be pushed to you know, they won't be feeling poor.
Yes, I think that is a good idea, because contacting people by phone once we've got the website, I don't think I'll be doing that. So that is a really good idea, and I'll consider that. Definitely, that's good. That is, Angela. Thank you. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think feedback is so important.
Yeah.
For us as business people, we do need to know when we're hitting the mark so we can celebrate it, and when we're not, to do something about it, you know. And I think that there are a lot of people that like to see that things have been sorted out, that things have been looked at, reviewed, and something done about it, you know. And I think that's just as powerful when people are starting to talk about reputations and things like that. Does anyone else do feedback sheets or feedback questionnaires?
Yeah, I do.
You do them.
Yeah.
Okay. When do you do yours?
When I deliver workshops, I give out feedback sheets.
What about your products? What about the mosaic arts that you do for people, the commissions and stuff? How do you get feedback from that, or is it just verbal, or do you do it at all?
Yeah, it's just for, no, I don't actually do it for that. I just, because people just tend to like what they see,
Yes.
and that's it really.
Okay. I mean, would you be prepared to find out? They love what they see, but would you be prepared to look at if there are any other aspects of that order, that commission, that they would probably give you feedback on, or is that not something that you really want to do?
Yes, because I think maybe something like the shipping aspect, like the packaging maybe.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, something like that. I'd be prepared to
Yeah.
get some more feedback on.
I guess, you know, with looking at feedback, reduces complaints, but also helps us to perfect ourselves, doesn't it? It helps us perfect what we do. That's my thoughts on that. You know, yeah, that's my thoughts.
I've
But we need
had
to.
some. Sorry to jump in, Ange. I've had somebody on Facebook suggest that I was copying them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In what way?
A few years ago, I asked this person. I was a friend with this person, and I asked them if they would mind just give me some direction on how to do a particular shape. It was a body. And she said, fine, yeah, that's fine, I can do that. So then I did my version and just put it out, you know, and just was showing people on Facebook. And she, unbeknownst to me, she was slagging me off in her group, with her followers, saying that I'd copied her. And then she then sent me a direct message and said I need to take my image down because it's copying her work. And no, actually, sorry, she didn't send me a direct message. She said it out onto the public forum. She said I need to take that image down because it's copying my work. And I was confused because it didn't look anything like hers. So she then posted a picture of her work, which was looking nothing like mine. But I didn't even have a chance to respond. Because I've got quite, you know, I had quite a few followers. People were just responding back to her saying that, you know, she's talking rubbish basically.
Okay.
And she got blasted. But then she sent me a direct message, or I sent her a direct message saying, you know, what's the problem? And she basically said I was copying her, and I said, well, which part is it? Am I copying you? There's, you know, I've got a distinct style. You've got your own distinct style. Which part is it? And she just refused to answer. And then I did, because I was meant to be quite a good friend of hers. Then I tried to call her. She didn't pick up the call. And by this time, it had just really escalated on Facebook. It was just really bad. And this was, I wasn't involved in the actual banter of it. But I had a lot of people fighting my corner and just saying, you know, what you're doing is wrong. So I had that aspect of it. But in the end, she just blocked me. She blocked me. and it was a little bit messy, but that was that really.
Did you? You know, it's always worrying when things like this are happening in the public domain.
Yeah.
You can't really manage it, can you? You can't manage it, and being very careful about how you respond. I know you said you didn't get involved,
Mm-hmm.
but it is very difficult. And even that, sometimes, by not seeing a response, some people think, what's going on then? How come you haven't said anything? That's a real hard thing, and I think that's the sort of thing, that we've got to really try and limit, you know. So what other things, Michelle, I saw your hand up earlier on. If you still got something to say, Michelle?
Unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I think feedback forms are great, and I use them for both my one-to-one coaching, but also for my workshops that I do. But another thing that I think are really good are testimonials.
Yes.
When someone's worked with you closely, even for Dion, it would be really good when you've done a piece for somebody or someone's bought something, they felt really inspired and really loved it. Ask them to write you a little testimonial. You know, when I purchased this, it made me feel this way, or when I had this experience with you, I felt this afterwards, or even with Colin, they did work on me, and it, my arm feels great now, and I had all this pain before. It's just more. It's just supporting what you do, and it's spreading the word to the world that you're great at what you do, and you made somebody feel better because of what you did for them. So testimonials are really good. And, I have mine on my website, and obviously not all of them, but I pick some of my favorite ones and put them on my website, because again, when people are looking to find out more about you, that's another place that they can look at it. So this is another form of feedback, a testimonial. It's a nice one, I think.
Yes, I actually do that. So I've forgotten I've done that. So thank you for the reminder. Yeah.
Thank you for that as well, Gwen. Appreciated.
Michelle.
Michelle, sorry.
Mm-mm.
Sorry. Well, I came out the room and came back.
Oh my God.
That's very, very interesting, though.
Yeah, but
sorry, go ahead, Simon.
I tend to have a lot of recorded testimonials as well. What people tend to do, and I find it very helpful, because people, they pick any aspect they want to talk about as to why they like the therapy or the environment, and or the person that did the work. I don't tell them to say this or say that, they select. So it's kind of a good screenshot as to what my service is about, and the areas that they pick up on. I think, oh, I never thought about that. So it's quite insightful to have those testimonials. So if anybody wants to do any more for me, that would be great.
Yeah, send the link.
I will.
Send the link, and I'm sure people will put the information on there. I really think that, again, I recognise the importance of feedback, and I think you can get feedback mad, but I think the information that comes from it, it's certainly much better to have that than not have anything at all. So is there anyone that doesn't have feedback sheets at all? Romanita, do you have any feedback sheets or anything, or any area for testimonies with your book? You're mute again. Romanita? We're struggling to get on. Is Romanita muted herself? Perhaps she has.
Yeah, she has.
Okay. All right. Who else is there that I was just thinking that Bev? Are you there, Bev?
Which one?
Oh, and actually, Bev Henry. Are you on, Bev Henry?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Your products, actually, Bev. I guess, do all of you know who Bev is?
No.
The Henry's Foods.
Bev did introduce herself the other day. Go ahead. What do you say, Miles? Miles?
Hello.
Just 2 seconds, Bev. Miles, were you going to say something?
No, that wasn't me. That wasn't me.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Bev Henry, do you want to just quickly let everyone know who you are?
Hello, my name's Bev Henry, and I'm actually the PA for Keith Henry at the Henry Superfoods Limited. And we actually produce and supply porridges, different types of porridges, and also a tonic.
Which some of the people on this group said that they've actually tasted and think they're great, which is really good. Colin, I think you actually suggest for the product as well. But do you do feedback sheets, and do you have a complaints policy or anything like that at all?
We have on the actual website, when you actually order the goods, there's an opportunity for people to write a review, but I think people tend to shy away from that.
Okay.
That people normally tell you personally, but it's even though that's good, but it would be also good to see it on the website. That gives other people an opportunity to know what other people think about the products.
But even though the review, so even if it's a constructive feedback, would you be happy to have that there?
Oh yes, that's the only way you learn, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, but I don't know if I'd want to. I mean, that's for everyone to see. When they give that feedback, is it exposed?
It is, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I personally would be a bit nervous about that. I wouldn't. I think that when people see things like that, you think about like the travel advisor and trip advisor rather, people are easily put off. There are some, I would say, narrow.
There's always going to be one, though. I mean,
Yes.
like the amount of times that, you can go on a website for a hotel, and people will complain about stuff that they'd expect in a 5-star hotel when they've booked into a 3-star.
Correct.
So people will complain about anything.
Yes, they will.
They might even complain that the label's not straight on the bottle.
Yes. Yeah.
Not that has happened,
No.
from what I know. You know what I mean? But it's just simple things. People will pick at silly little things to. It's not really constructive.
That's right. And there is a massive difference. So Bev Thomas, do you do feedback or anything for your properties or anything like that? Do you do anything where you would be wanting feedback?
So is that me asking?
Yes, darling.
Right, okay, so I've only just in the last year shut down my online law firm, and the answer to that was yes, I did used to have a feedback policy. So I used to take wills, I used to do draft wills and, well, anything to do with law really, because I had a wider network of lawyers working for me. And if there was a complaint of any kind, it would be on a sheet that they signed to say whether they thought the service was good or bad or whatever. And yes, I did encourage that. But my history is that I came from a customer service environment. My training, I used to work for American Express for 13 years.
Right.
And I left there as a corporate director. And the policy from the time when the very first thing they did when you arrived there is they gave you 15 or 20 shares in American Express as soon as you became a permanent member. And they said, right, we're not giving you these 20 shares as just willy-nilly. We're giving it to you so that you can own part of the company. Therefore, anything that happens, any customer has a problem, you have to own that problem because it's your company. And so that was the mindset of every staff member, that if there was a complaint, it was a complaint against my company.
Right.
and that's how they that's how they trained us. Yeah, that's how they trained us to deal with customer service. And so our customer service was quite impeccable, really, and got very I would say very few complaints. And even when we did get a complaint, I mean, if somebody was complaining about, I don't know, somebody senior to me even, they encouraged us to take the problem so that the customer didn't feel like they were being passed around.
Yes. Yeah.
So even if I couldn't deal with it, I had to pretend that I could deal with it. And what I would do is that I'd take down the details and I'd say, okay, give me a few minutes and I'll come back to you. And they took my name, and then I'd go and I'd speak to whoever caused the problem. I'd get the solution, and I'd go back and I'd give the solution.
Yes.
And they would feel happy that it was dealt with by one person. Whoever they got on the phone, they could rant and rave as much as they liked, and that person would have to own that problem and deal with it. And because we were all given shares, we were of the mentality that, well, it's our company, it's our business, it's our problem.
And I like that. That's bringing people along on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, making them take ownership.
Yeah, we all had to own. It didn't matter, because what you do find is, if you have an issue, I don't know, let's say BT, and you get on the phone and you say, oh, blah 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 blah, but I never told you that. Is what they're going to be very defensive.
Yes. Yeah.
And you don't want to hear them saying, well, it wasn't me, it's not my fault, it wasn't me. You just want the problem solved. And that was what I think was very good about American Express. They taught us to take responsibility, and it doesn't matter, and to not play the blame game.
Mm.
The customer's got a problem, whatever that problem is, doesn't matter how high it is, even if it was the director that caused the problem, deal with the problem and solve it.
Yes. And that, I think, is, again, that's great because it's a big corporate business.
Mm-hmm.
However, then when we get to the small sole trader business, it's completely different. And it's just interesting in how we handle ourselves. It was just a few months ago where, again, I had, I think it was probably about 6 months ago, there were 2 team companies that were at loggerheads.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, it was getting quite difficult, and I had to mediate.
Mm-hmm.
Sorted themselves out now, but I think it's left a bitter taste in their mouths,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. And it really did make me think on about complaints. How do we deal with it? Because we don't look for them. And what do we do with them when we receive them? How do we handle them without causing any disrespect, but acting businesslike?
Mm-hmm.
And it is different when we're in a corporate place and we know that they've got their own complaints handling team in most cases, or they have a legal team that they can pass it on to, dependent on the scale of the complaint.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, for us being as small as we are, we could easily wiped out with something. And it does take just someone going to the public domain, as I said, and, making us look really terrible, and could put a really poor edge on ourselves. So I'm just really curious if anyone, but I don't expect you to share because it's obviously going to be insensitive of me to ask, but I'm just wondering if anyone's got any, just like concerns that they've got, that they've had any complaints where people want to share that, anything like how they're dealing with it. Has anyone got, or everything just seems tickety-boo? Everything must be fine.
I think at the end of the day, you can have, it doesn't matter how small, because even my legal practice, it wasn't a massive company. It was a small practice. I had issues of where, for example, I might write a will, or mainly say writing a will. And when I send it out to the customer phones up and says, oh, there's a mistake in here because blah, 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 blah. Now, you could be defensive and say, but you told me that.
Mm.
That's what you wanted. And I think just by treating the customer with respect, and irrespective of whether they're correct or not, you just treat them as if they are correct.
Yes.
And you know, that's how you diffuse a situation. I mean, I ran that company since 98 until last year. And
Wow.
no stage at all did I ever had blowouts with customers. Why? Because of obviously my initial training with American Express. I learned how to deal with customers. But the customer does, irrespective of whether, if I'm looking at my fact sheet and it clearly says something which I've put down, or instructed someone to write, and they're saying, but I never said that, I said blah, 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 and you know that they didn't, but you say, oh, I'm terribly sorry.
Yes. It's a bit of the customer's always right.
I'll get that rectified straight away. And you make sure that you exceed their expectations. So I can tell you one of the good things I had, good pieces of feedback I had, is that when people went to their solicitors to have anything done, it would take, 28 to 30 days. I made sure I turned everything around within 7 days.
Fantastic.
So I, exceeded expectations. And when you do that, it leaves a very, very good taste. I mean, sometimes, they would come back and say, oh my goodness, I didn't expect it so quickly. And that's a good thing.
Yes, it is. It is. It's an excellent thing, really. That's
So,
very... Wow.
So, I really didn't have, I mean, I had a complaints procedure, but I really never had to use it.
Yes.
Because, I jumped on anything that could be escalated very, very quickly and, and made them feel whether they were right or wrong. I mean, some people knew they were wrong. But I still, accepted defeat and just said, oh, I'm terribly sorry. I'll get that changed straight away. And that was the end of it. That diffused the whole situation and nothing ever escalated.
Yes. That's not a bad thing. I think it's really good. I think, again, as small businesses, as we get bigger, then we've got a chance of complaints coming through. And it's how we move forward with all that, I suppose. We're all still relatively small, but growing. So it's just how we would cope with it. And even though I mentioned I mentioned a complaints policy. Obviously, once you've got a policy in place, you've got to adhere to it. Otherwise, you could find yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
So I suppose the question is to everybody: would you even look at having a complaints policy? Would you even think about having one now? Is it something that you think about having in the future? Because when you get bigger, because you feel that you're on it now, you're small enough to deal with it now. Any thoughts about that? Anyone? Yeah? You trying to say something? Dion?
Yes?
Sorry, were you trying to say
Oh, sorry,
something?
I didn't hear you. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay. I was just, would anyone consider having a complaints policy now? Or is it something that they feel that they don't really need because it's something that if they get something that is appearing untoward, that they can deal with it, they'll just jump on it and deal with it?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea because you can't cover everything in your business. There's different things that might come up that that are unexpected, and it'd be good to have a complaints policy that you can sound out to other people and then just put that in place as a case.
Hi, Ange.
Hi.
Hi. I think I don't know if I'd probably have a complaint policy as such because we're so small. But I tend to use other people, as you know, as a sounding board. If I've decided to do something, or if anyone has said anything. And I'm talking particularly about one thing I had the other day where I'd put a post on our Facebook page to just a quick fun thing, just asking which product people preferred. But I just said, because we have like a red league and a yellow league, I just said, which do you prefer, red or yellow? And everyone that answered, which was really popular, there's over 60 comments. And everyone that answered, I recognised the people as customers.
Okay.
And I hadn't really thought about it not being a customer, and that a customer might, someone that's new to the site might not understand what I meant. But
Yeah.
one girl commented that she preferred, that one looks like it's more popular than the other looks better. So I just commented back, it actually depends on which hair type, which one you would prefer. She'd responded after quite a few people responded. Some of them saying, "Oh, I like this one because it does like that to my hair." One saying, "I like that one because it does this to my hair." So there's quite a few of those. And she made this comment, and I responded like that. When she came back, she'd obviously read it differently to how I meant it, and she came back. But you said it, but in capital letters. But you had said that you wanted people to say which one they prefer. I thought you was a new company and wanted to know which style you should be using and such and such. And she was really not happy in her text. It was obvious that she'd felt that in my response I had somehow berated her for picking one, which was by far not my intention, and it was a very light-hearted thing. Anyway, I decided there's two ways of dealing with it. I could have just responded, I just left it like that, or not responded at all. But I did respond, and then she came back again and still not happy. And I could have left it there, but I decided I'm going to change this one around because it's in the feed and other people could read it. I felt that I really needed to turn it around so that people see that she's not happy, but at the end she's happy. That's what I wanted to happen.
Yes.
And on the seventh message, she apologized to me for the misunderstanding and was very, very complimentary about big nannies and everything. So I'd managed to turn it around, and I looked at the text going down, and what happened in the meantime is that another customer came on and said, "Oh yes, I saw that, and I thought this and that, and I thought this was such and such," and she sort of like wooden spooned the whole thing and light it up again within those 7 texts. But by the end, anyway, I managed to turn it round. So I think for me, I think I probably just deal with each thing as it comes for now. But as we get better and our website is up and running, we will have to look at that.
More
Because there's
formality.
more people that you're open to.
Yes.
But yeah.
And I think things outside in the public domain, it's always a risk trying to control. Everything's like damage limitation, isn't it?
That's exactly
the public domain.
Yeah.
It's very nerving, which is why I was saying to Bev that she's brave, because I mean it's great because especially if the reviews are always going to outweigh any constructive feedback, but it's the risk if there's I remember a hotel. I remember they used to use TripAdvisor, and they said that there were that many poor reviews coming in about that hotel. They actually started getting their own staff to go on and put good points. Someone actually shared that with me, and I was like, really? I was really, really shocked. In terms of because it's out to the public domain, and we can't afford to lose that. They did lose stars. They started off as a 4-star, went right down to a 2 in the end. But it's just amazing what we can pick up. So yeah, interesting. Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Well, 10:05 actually, to be precise. Do people want to carry on, or have you got things like going on that you need to go off and do? Totally up to yourselves. What do you want to do? Michelle, do you want to mute yourself? Or probably Miles and mute Michelle. I think people are getting stuck when they mute themselves. They're struggling to get back unmuted.
Right. I was just going to add to your point about. Sorry, I'm fading a little bit. What was I going to say to you? It was about public domain and you know, I just don't get into fights with people online because it just looks bad. And again, back to my Airbnb, I had somebody who stayed here who I did have a misunderstanding with. Some changes had happened and I'd forgotten to go back and tell her that the changes had happened. So when she got here, what it was that she had her own bathroom. But in between the time she booked the room and her coming to stay, I ended up opening up another bedroom, which was never the plan, but we had such a great response and the room was just consistently sold out that one of our first guests said, well, why don't you just, you know, use one of the other rooms? And I said, oh, I'm not really ready to do that. I was like, look, all you could do is put some paint on the wall, put some curtains up, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, okay, I'll do that for you. But then it ended up becoming just as popular. So I ended up having 2 rooms, but with 2 rooms meant they now had to share a bathroom, which was not originally planned. So I hadn't changed it on Airbnb, just didn't think about it. So it was an innocent mistake. So when I was, when she was coming in, she was saying, oh, I'm so excited because I'm going to stay in your house and I don't have to share the bathroom. And all of a sudden my stomach dropped, right? I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. So first of all, I apologized profusely, explained the situation and said to her, you know, I'd like to make it up to you. How can I do that for you? And she said, oh, I don't know. Then I went back to her and said, look, I'm just going to take 5% off your bill because you're going to be sharing and she was like, great. And she was happy with that. But every day that she was here, she came back with something else. Like, oh, can I get this? Can I get that? Oh, can I use your washing machine? Da, 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 da. And so sort of tried to take advantage of the fact that I'd made that error. So, oh, can I use a little bit of soap? And well, you can use a little bit of soap, but you should buy your own soap because we don't really let people do laundry. But if you're here she was here for a long time. She was here for a month, which is not typically what we rent for. So anyway, I just say all of that to say at the end of it, when she was giving my review, she gave me 5 stars for everything, but accuracy. She said that, you know, the information was incorrect that I provided, which was true. But what she didn't say was all the other things that I did to fix the situation. She never mentioned that I offered a 5% discount. She never mentioned that a bunch of other things that happened. Also, there was a train strike, and I think she was pissed off about that. There was a train strike, and she came to me and said, I'm not going to stay the night I was going to stay until because there was a train strike, so I'm going to leave early. I said, okay. But she was coming back a few days later. And then she asked me if she could get a discount for that night. And I said, wait, you want me to give you a discount because there's a train strike? And she said, yeah. I said, I'm really sorry, but that's just not something that I can do. But if you want to talk to Airbnb, maybe they'll reimburse you, but I'm unable to do that. And I just left it at that. So I think she was annoyed about that I wouldn't give her money back. Airbnb obviously backed me 100%, so it wasn't an issue. But, you know, she made that comment online and then added to the fact that, you know, well, she said she was going to do things and she didn't really do them, blah, blah, blah. And I just sort of responded and said, I thought that we came to an agreeable place, and I'm really sorry that, you know, you're not happy with where we left it, or something to that effect. And that was it. And I just didn't get into a war with her because it's one of those things that you can't actually ever win, and it just looks bad if you're just going back and forth with someone.
Yes.
So I kind of had to let it go, but I was not happy about it, but I just had to let it go. But again, if you, as you said with TripAdvisor, for example, when you're looking at a place to stay, you kind of look through all the reviews and you have to kind of work with like 80% of them are pretty good. You can also have somebody who complains because it's the nature of some people who just like to complain. You're not going to be able to get around it. So you're looking at the general amount of responses that are positive. Yeah. And if there's something that's negative, you have to look at, you know, how serious is that? Is it somebody really just complaining, or is that a legitimate complaint?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's one of the things. I used to work in customer services, and you don't have to get some emotional people around, and dependent on how their life is at that particular time, they could take it out on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they would if they wanted to complain because they were venting, they would ring up, and there was probably in a lot of cases nothing wrong with the product. They just needed to vent, you know. And there was always people trying to get things, you know.
For
I used to work
free.
in the mail order company, and people used to order things from the catalogue and want to send them back over the weekend. And of course, we recognised that there were people who were using them for the weekend and sending them back. So there was a stop to that. But people, again, at the time, it was the customer is always right. So you just used to give them back the money. And I was like, oh, okay. But and you do. But I think, again, coming back to us as small businesses, having to put up with things like that is very, very difficult. And it's how we cover ourselves, you know. So I don't know. How do we? I mean, as a lasting statement, because it is 10:15. No one said that they want to go. You know, if you all need to go, then just drop off if you need to. But what is the solution? Are there any solutions? Any at all? Other than a complaints policy, are there any other ways we could look at how we can manage or feedback? Was it too late to be asking that type of question?
I think for me, a lot of it depends on your intention. If your intention as a business owner, especially if it's a small business, if your intention is to offer a really valuable first-class service, then that is going to be reflected in how you come across. So your clients, you know, the reasonable clients are going to pick up on it. And especially if you say things like, you know, we value your feedback. You know, I mean, I use feedback forms in my business, and I'm always asking people for feedback as well, whether it's verbally or whether it's written. And I do communicate with my clients in terms of if you know, if there is any part of my service that you're not happy with, then just let me know. And I always try and come from a space of, you know, I really value you as a human being and I value you as a client. And I think if that is your intention, then your clients will pick up on that, and they're more likely to be open and honest and upfront with you if you encourage them to do that. I think if you've got a bigger business, then yes, I think you need a complaints policy in place. So it depends for me on the size of the business. But I think a lot of it is down to your intention as a business owner towards your clients and how important customer service is to you. And if it's paramount, then that is going to be communicated. And I thought it was quite interesting what Bev was saying about American Express. That I thought that was quite interesting what she was saying there about the mindset of American Express. It was to give you a vested interest in the company, so that if clients did have a complaint, then you personally had a reason for taking that complaint on personally and taking responsibility for that complaint and dealing with it. And I think that's what it comes down to. It's you, whether you're an employee or whether you're a business owner, it's to what extent you feel it's your responsibility to make sure that that person is dealt with and dealt with in a way that they leave satisfied, or they leave happy, or they leave feeling that their query has been dealt with. So a lot of it comes down to your intention as an individual and how valuable customer service is to you. Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. And I think, again, going back to personalities, again, as a smaller business and you're dealing with people directly and you're doing most of the work, the products, the services yourself, your personality comes over. When you've got a group of people and their characteristics are a little bit different from you, then that you know, obviously leaving yourself a little bit open to that sort of thing happening. But I do think that, a policy can be too much at a smaller stage, if you know what I mean. I do totally agree with that. But it's how do we manage it anyway? And by sounds of things, it doesn't sound like we have many complaints on this group that's here tonight, which is a good thing. You know, I was more thinking that for what I've seen over the last couple of months, where we've had one or two complaints, it has been a bit nerving. I was just thinking, what does everybody else do? So again, I would still ask that question of all of you. Do you think that there are any solutions to limiting, thinking about damage limitation with complaints? Are there any? No? Probably it's too much of a heavy question to be asking.
I think maybe I would probably say the complaints themselves, try and keep them to a minimum, because you can't win every argument. You're not going to have every customer happy.
No.
So if you have the majority of your customers who are happy, then that's all you can, I think that's all we can aim for as business owners. I don't think it can have 100%. And you don't want to be taken advantage of. It sounds very much like the other customer at the B&B was trying to take advantage of the fact that
yes.
the host has been very cordial and going out of the way. And she was ready
Yes.
to take advantage of her. And I think, so you have to draw the line, you have a majority, and that's all you can ask for.
It's a very good point. Very good point. Bev Thomas. Could you mute? Miles, can you mute Bev? Thank you.
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, I was thinking that the key really is, if you're in a small business, is to, in order to minimise or limit the damage done by whatever the error is or the complaint is, if you deal with it, as quickly as possible, find the resolution as quickly as possible, then I think the customer is going to be happy. If you're dealing with, I don't know, some say products, for example, where you have lots and lots of customers receiving products, perhaps a good way would be to include as part of your providing that service or product, to provide feedback forms straight away, so that they can get used to giving you back the feedback immediately on receiving whatever the service is. And then when you get that back, if you can't handle it yourself, maybe get someone to help you collate that information so that you can actually make a better job of it in the future, improve your business that way. But I think damage limitation would be, just to make sure that any complaints that did come through, that you dealt with them immediately, so that the customer probably doesn't even want to register it as a complaint because you've resolved the issue.
Yes. And that's, in many cases, that's all people want. They want to see it being heard, and that something's getting done, So, yeah, I agree with that. Anyone else got any more points to raise about complaint management? The legalities, anything? Because it is moving, the time's moving up, and I'm just considering a lot of people have got a lot of things on.
I think one of the important things is to just remain calm when you're dealing with a complaint. I think you as a business owner has to remain grounded.
Yes.
Even if somebody's really sounding off, even if somebody's shouting down the phone at you, I think you as a business owner need to just remain calm and level-headed. And if it is your error, then you just apologise and hold your hands up. And as Deb was saying, try and deal with it as quickly as possible. But I think you as a business owner just need to remain grounded and calm, and so that you can calm the client down. Because that's happened to me quite a few times in the past, not as a business owner, but when I've been employed, that people have come on the phone really angry. Because I used to work for a work experience agency, and we had parents on the phone complaining about their child's work experience placement, or we've had other people coming on the phone complaining, and we in the office just had to calm them down and just remain really focused and keep our voices quite level, keep our tone quite level. And I found that if you stay in that space, 9 times out of 10, you can actually calm the person down. And that enables you to deal with the complaint
Yes.
in a much more effective way.
Would you, I'm just thinking, because we all offer a product or a service, obviously, would you ever go as far as, and not just you, Carmen, anyone, would you go as far as giving people back their money?
Yes.
You would? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it depends on what it is. I mean, if it's something that you can give money back on without crippling yourself, a good name is better than one item of service. So I think it would be more important to save your reputation by, if the resolution doesn't necessarily have to be money. I mean, you can give money back if they feel that they haven't. For example, if you sent out a product that's faulty, obviously you give them their money back.
Yeah.
But if they've got, I don't know, if they've received something and they just don't want it, anymore, and it's gone beyond, say, the statutory 30 days, if this person is really, really irritated because she's missed it by 1 day or something, you could be the bigger person and just say, look, okay, on this occasion, you have missed the deadline, but we will give you your money back, or something like that. I mean, you'll know your own circumstances under which you can make that refund. But if it's not going to cripple your business, I think it's better to save your name.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So again, I've asked it for because again, looking at what people would offer as a service if they weren't happy. Again, I remember a few years ago where a lady was getting some work done, a builder, and they didn't turn up. They didn't finish on time and all sorts, and the person's still trying to fight to get money off them. They have to go somewhere else. So it's little things like that in terms of how far would we go. Very interesting. Miles, you've been very quiet tonight. Have you got no questions or no guides tonight?
I'm here. I'm listening with interest. And you guys were doing such a fantastic job. I thought, why would I interfere with your excellent
Is that right?
commentating and also Q&As? That was brilliant.
Wow.
But when it comes to complaints, like I said, I've got a sister who used to work for American Express, and she's got some very, very good customer care management skills, which I don't really have. My dad's quite blunt in his delivery and his feedback, and I kind of inherited a little bit of that. And so it's when someone's complaining to me, it's better that I don't talk to them. It's better that I just let someone else. Because here's the truth: when someone's complaining, they really want to be heard, and sometimes I'm just too blunt for someone in that headspace. So I'm realizing they need diplomacy, and I've got that too. But sometimes, I can't hear everything they want to say, so I let Bev handle it. She does a really good job. Then I can listen to the feedback afterwards, and if I get annoyed, I can get annoyed by myself without the customer seeing it.
Yes. Yeah.
So I like to do it that way. But I also recognize the customer is king, and they have to be treated correctly. And sometimes, it depends on your personality. I don't know if you ever, Bev, I don't know. Do you have a system where they have like the red, blue, yellow, green personality systems? Do you remember what that system's called, Bev?
It's just gone out of my head, actually. It was on the tip of my tongue and I've forgotten it now.
Okay. But anyway, there's the red types are quite aggressive, and they're quite good at management and stuff.
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs, okay.
That's one of them, yes.
Now, here's the thing. There are certain personality types that really shouldn't be in front of customers because they're not going to be served well by them. So I think that from the model, it was blue and yellow. So I remember when I looked at it, I thought, if I'm ever going to have a customer-facing member of staff, they're going to be a yellow or a blue based on the system because their personality is correct. So you can teach anyone anything, But if their personality is abrasive and rough, they're gonna sound fake when they're trying to sound like they're being empathic. And you don't want someone to be, saying words of empathy but sounding fake. You want someone who genuinely has it in their heart they care, to be listening to that. I came out on the system as being green, which is basically analytical.
Okay.
And analytical people tend not to show too much emotion. Well, nobody, when someone's vexed and they want to hear them. Do you know what I mean? I used to get lots of complaints that I wouldn't listen to people. So I'm thinking, why are you being emotional, for goodness sake? Just calm down and start to thought as normal people. But that's not the right response, especially when someone's being emotional. What they really want to do is they want to talk. They just want to talk, get it off their chest. And once they get it off their chest, then they feel good. Now, I didn't know that. I thought they wanted a solution. I didn't know they wanted to talk. Do you know what I mean? If I knew that, I would have, closed my 2 ears and let them carry on.
Yeah.
I'm only joking. I'm only joking. But like I said, yellow and blue, for me, are the two people who should be in front of customers. Reds are too aggressive. They should not be in front of a customer. And unfortunately, too many reds run patty shops and West Indian takeaway shops. And because of that, they're just too aggressive. And they shouldn't be customer facing, but they should be in the business. They should run the business. They should be the boss, but they shouldn't be customer facing. And then you've got the guys like me. We're the guys, we're the accountants. We're in the background making sure that you do your numbers in such a way that 10 years, 5 years from now, you're worth a couple of £1 million. That's what guys like me are about. But when it comes to making customers feel like they're special and someone cares about them, and and you care about them as much as their mother cares about them, that's a yellow and a blue for you. And it's that personality who should do it. And if you know this information, then you should make sure that you have the correct people in the right spots to make sure that your business delivers what it has to deliver. Because some people are sensitive and they can't hear complaints objectively. And so you have to just recognize where you at and then find someone who can do that job better than you can.
I like that. And I don't think people do that. I really did like when you said that you actually, you dedicated that bit to Bev because you recognise your own characteristics with it. That's a very, very good idea to do. And again, as smaller businesses, we think that we have to manage everything on our own. So it's a very, very good point. Alfie, are you still on? I don't know if she is.
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh. When you actually have complaints coming through, do you actually pass them to anyone else in the family, or do you do it all yourself?
Angela, those issues I've just told you about there have been the only ones. We don't really get them. I might get like the late parcel, and it turns out it comes the day after. Or if I've sent something out a bit late, then I'll try and text them before and tell them I wasn't able to send it on the same day. But that's happened 3 times, so we don't get a lot. The only comment that we get a lot, which I wouldn't say is a complaint because they love the product, it's feedback, is that questioning the container that we have the oil in. That's the biggest thing, and we've listened to that in providing the applicator. So so we don't get a lot of complaints. It's only that post one, that the one on the Facebook page I was telling you about, so not a lot. But what I will do on those occasions, I have I've sounded off, gone to someone to ask their opinion before I've gone back to the customer in the main.
Yes.
So
I know that you don't get a lot of complaints. Probably the word complaint is probably too harsh. I was more thinking about, because there's not just yourself in your business. I mean, if I look at the likes of Dion or Colin Sims or even Romanita, they're all on their own. So because there's more than one of you in yours, I was just wondering whether you've got it split in terms of I'll be responsible for that and you can be responsible for. I didn't know if there was a split there. That's what I was thinking.
I have to laugh. No, that would be definitely left. Any complaint that we would have, that would definitely be left to me. Mum would just She just really looks after the oil. But I will sound things off with her. We do, you know, I will sound things off with her. But all that kind of thing, that would definitely just be,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, I don't think anyone gets, I don't know what other word to use other than complaint. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the information that's coming back that someone is disgruntled or whatever.
Yeah, that makes you better. And that's all we really get is what the type of container that we've got it in. But we've never had a complaint about the product itself. Just the container, nothing else really. And post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lady was telling me the
Sorry,
other
what's the
day
name of your company, Alfia?
we're Big Nanny's hair products.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. A lady was telling me the other day that when we post first class, she should always get it the next day. And I was explaining to her that first class, when it's just first class, there's no promise that it will be, it's not guaranteed the next day. It's within 2 or 3 days in actual fact, first class. Well, I think, no, 1 to 2 days. So if she didn't get it the next day, it will be the second day. But that's it. That's all that we've ever had. Luckily, thank God.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And they're not big things either, are they? They're
No,
just,
they're not. Yeah.
you know, it's not as though it's a harsh thing. It's not as though you've got a really badly disgruntled person that they're going to take you to take you to the with it. You
No,
know.
no.
But
We get
hopefully none of us will have to face that.
No, I hope not. We get so many compliments, so many positive, so much positive feedback.
I'm not surprised.
I would never say that we've had anything negative.
No.
Negative? No, I can't remember ever having anyone say anything negative that I can remember.
That's just wonderful, and actually, that's it. I need some oil, but anyway, that's another conversation.
Yeah, we'll sort that out.
We'll have after. I'm starting to get desperately. I've had to take my daughters now. So.
Do you have a website?
Day.
Is that is for Big Nannies?
Yeah.
It's being built. I keep telling people a couple of weeks, but literally it is a couple of weeks' time now. But otherwise,
how do people order then?
I'm sorry?
How do people order then?
They get it on. They contact me via Facebook or they'll telephone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. And you have two types. Now you've got a comb. I bought so many combs at Christmas and gave them, and everyone I gave to, how do you like your comb? Oh, I love it. Love it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that comb's really popular, you know,
really
and they're really, really popular. Yeah.
I'm not surprised. It's a beautiful comb.
And
it feels really nice in your hair. It feels really nice.
Thank you. I'll pay you later.
You know?
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah. Try to get an income stream for compliments. Very good. Like that. Okay. So, anyone else got anything else to say about any complaints management? You all go quiet when I say that. Probably I should start asking that question. So, is there anything else that anyone would want to suggest that we do other than feedback? I think feedback is good anyway. I think we should do it. I think we really should do it. It's good.
Yeah.
But we haven't. You obviously haven't got anything else to say because you're usually quicker than this.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the time, and it's 25 to 11. So I'm going to. My suggestion is that we close it now, so people can go and rest and do what they've got to do. And has anyone got any last thing that they want to say before we bring it to a close?
Good night.
Okay. Anyone else?
And thank you for your attendance, and it's been absolutely brilliant listening to this call.
Well, thank you very much for being the person that we could hear more about their journey. Very interesting. And just a reminder, if anyone wants to find out any more about the program that Miles is doing, please get in touch with him. And alternatively, if you want to sign up, get in touch. All right?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And on that note, I'm going to bid everyone a good night, and we'll reconnect soon.
Okay.
All right?
Okay. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll be putting my order in tomorrow, Althea.
Althea, did you hear that? She's already gone.
Has she gone?
Looks like she's already gone.
She's muted.
Oh, she's muted herself. I'm sure she'll be thanking
Oh,
you.
sorry, I couldn't get that. I couldn't get that to stop. Yes, please do. 07930341627.
Yeah, I saved it.
Can Althea say that again, please? Althea, say that again, please.
Sorry, 07930
Mm-hmm.
341
Mm-hmm.
627.
627. Do you do combs for beards?
We have a beard brush, but any of the combs can use for beards actually. But they're we do have a beard brush.
Lovely jubbly.
I thought you were going to ask for hair oil to restore your hair.
No, I like being bald. The idea of growing hair and having to manicure it and pedicure it and pull it up and plait it and kinra, no, too much work. Ever since I shaved my head, I'm so happy. In fact, ladies, I'd recommend the bald head. It's low maintenance.
My husband's got a bald head.
A bald head and a nice warm cap in winter time, and you're good to go. And in summertime, lick a coconut oil, and your head shine up nice and pretty.
Yeah, all his mummies.
Oh, dear, this guy.
Oh dear.
Funny. But there you go. More
What,
orders.
what time do you open, Althea?
I open in 1 minute's time and I close 1 minute before. And I always open, you know.
So I could order now. You know, I can call you now then.
You could. You know, the latest call I've had was 1 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
So I had a gentleman call me at 1 o'clock in the morning to make an order. And I took that order as if it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, I'll call you in 5 minutes.
Okay then.
Oh, gosh.
Right, good night all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.